Where's your smile?
Blind, unable to walk, talk, or eat. Time with her mom and stepdad spent away from the Children's Hospital of Richmond at VCU is rare for 9-year-old Brianna.
She gets around-the-clock care. She has the G-tube, and she does have seizures.
But Bree wasn't born this way.
I made peace with it. I still have moments. We always joke and say if she could talk, sometimes we wonder what would come out of her mouth.
Crystal Helm says Bree's biological father shook his daughter so hard when she was just 10 weeks old that it left her with permanent brain damage.
I didn't know whether she was going to live or die.
Her ex was arrested and later pleaded guilty in a North Carolina court to felony child abuse. His sentence, less than 2 years in prison.
You shouldn't be able to just serve 2 years, get out and move along with life like nothing ever happened.
We spent months going through court files and found many similar cases, some where children died, but the prison sentences were never longer than 4 years. 8-month-old Reagan McKenna Johnson died after she was violently shaken by her babysitter back in 2004. Julie York Harris served 4 years in prison. This angel, a memorial to her and other children who have died. 4-month-old Shane Daniel Walls, who was brutally shaken by his own father, Corey Daniel Walls. He, too, served 4 years behind bars.
I'd like to know why.
We tried to get a handle on how many caretakers in these types of cases receive short sentences, but they don't track that in the state of Virginia.
That's hard.
Richmond prosecutor Mary Langer says long sentences in shaken baby cases are rare.
Is it fair to say that sentences in cases that involve abusive head trauma are not very high?
They are frequently lower than people might expect.
Langer says there are several reasons why, like getting a jury or judge to understand the complicated medical diagnosis.
Jurors are thinking, who have kids, think, you know, I've been frustrated with my own kids, and it's hard. You know, it's hard sometimes when they won't stop crying or whatever. That's not the same thing.
To look at what pattern of injury would we suspect with violent shaking.
Dr. Robin Foster, who heads up the child protective team at the Children's Hospital of Richmond at VCU, has testified in more than 100 of these kinds of cases.
The harder and longer the child is shaken, the more likely they'll have cerebral edema.
She shows rooms full of people the violence it takes to kill a child.
Because it's like that.
Foster says it's hard for people to swallow.
And I think people want to minimize the violence of it.
So, yes.
Defense attorney Todd Stone says sentences typically reflect the strength of a case. And in shaken baby cases, it's often hard to prove what happened.
Many times it's because the evidence is not as strong because you don't have an eyewitness and you don't have videotape.
Langer says sentencing guidelines also play a role.
So when you have crimes like sex offenses and child abuse that have historically been underreported and underresponded to, then the guideline ranges are lower.
So a pattern of low sentences in the
Leads
past
to, can perpetuate that forward.
Okay.
When Crystal looks at Bree, though, it's hard for her to understand the system and its outcomes.
You telling stories? Yeah.
For her, she sees a little girl who had her whole life ahead of her until her dad took it all away.
Her life has basically been robbed, and for someone to just serve a short sentence and go on and live their life like nothing ever happened is just mind-boggling.